Hello, I'm Rimuraj Arnon. I'm going to discuss a topic about poverty in contemporary Britain, and I will discuss the definitions of poverty, that is absolute, relative, and also social exclusion of poverty, and we'll discuss in detail about all those topics. So first, what is poverty means? Poverty is a condition and that a proportionate amount of the population are finding very difficulty for the basic needs of the life, mainly due to the lack of the absolute financial requirements to meet the basic standards of living. Mainly, the measurements of the poverty can be divided or classified into mainly two methods. So that is the absolute poverty and also the relative poverty. So we'll see the definitions of absolute poverty first. So what is absolute definition of poverty? So absolute poverty is defined as the lack of sufficient resources where we can't able to meet the basic life of needs. So absolute poverty is household income is below a certain level which is not able for the person or the family to meet the basic needs of the life, including the food, shelter, clothing, or even the drinking pure water, education and healthcare, etc. So these are the image that shows the absolute poverty from the 2007 to now 2019. That is the statistics we can see in the absolute poverty in UK. And the next one, what are the characteristics of absolute poverty? So the main characteristics of absolute poverty are they are with fixed threshold. So the poverty line is constant and it is not able to fluctuate within the economy of the country. And what are the strengths behind the absolute poverty? Mainly the strength, it provides the foremost information of the poverty line, and it also provides the clear and the precise measures of the poverty as well. Next, when coming to the limitations, it fails to reflect the basic necessities of life because that will be changing from time to time and also from even from person to person, and it may not able to reflect the people who are still under the poverty line. Because of that, they are always because that majority of the population are always in the social exclusion. That's why we cannot reflect them as well. Next one, talking about what relative definition of poverty means. Relative poverty refers to a person if it does not have the necessary resources to meet the average basic needs of living in the society. So what are the characteristics of a relative poverty? It is a variable threshold. We have already talked about that absolute poverty is about a fixed threshold, but this one is a variable threshold, and it mainly focuses the standards of a living. And in UK, the poverty is almost defined as a relative poverty because rather than the absolute, because it's really based upon that it does not have the necessary resources to meet the basic standards of a life. And next one, this is the image talking about what we have talked about, the relative poverty line. It is the image starts from the 2005 to 2019, and this was the statistics among the relative poverty in UK. And next one, talking about the strength and also the limitations of the relative poverty. So what are the strength? It explains well about the social exclusion in the country. It can bring a tremendous change in the poverty line when the country's economy is increasing. We have already told that because it is a variable threshold one. And what are the limitations? It shows most of the subjective measures because it mainly depends mainly on the subjective standards and the societal standards as well. Next one, this is just an image, and we can see what is the difference between a absolute and a relative poverty line. So we have already told that the threshold is a variable one, and the for relative poverty as well as for the absolute poverty it is a fixed one. Then the focus, it is basic needs, it is mainly focused on the absolute poverty. When coming to the relative poverty, it mainly focusing on the standards of living as well as. So its advantages, it is uniformity. Absolute poverty will be a uniformity, but in relative poverty it may considers the variations as well. The next one, talking about the social exclusion, it is termed when the person is having the lack of ability to find a proper standard of living in the society in which they are living. It excludes an exclusion from the economic, social, cultural, and even in the political affairs, mainly from the poverty line. It can be referred even as a marginalizing or excluding from the society. So it may be relative losing all the opportunities and services from the community and also having the lack of ability to find a proper living standards. Next one, what are the strength and limitations of a social exclusion? We can see that strength, it shows the real picture of the untapped economic potential within the country, and it shows the necessity to provide equal opportunities and interventions to each and every one as well. The next one, limitation, it's been excluded from the necessities of life, such as not having the proper clothing to find a job even, and also access to get a decent housing and shelter as well. Next one, how poverty has changed in Britain. So poverty is one that cannot be changed or transformed into one day. So it needs a significant changes in the societies or in well the communities. So during the industrial revolution, vast changes were rapidly done in the technological as well as in the urbanization as well, even though the labor movements and the child labor was existed in the 18th and the 19th centuries. In the early 20th century, certain social movements and welfare programs started to exclude the poverty as well. In most those periods, peoples were marginalized from the community as a result of the poverty. So which made a tremendous change from the community and made a visible changes in the standard basic lives of the people within the society. Next, the continuation of that one. Poverty reduction was not focused only in the Britain but also made a global focus during the mid 20th century. In the 21st century, certain development goals were included in reducing the poverty line and thereby improving the standard living level among the world. Then the most marked reduction has been reflected and fluctuated in the pensioners' poverty in Britain, and the rates for working age adults were now slightly changed. And next one, as per the 2025, the working age adults rate have been changed and it has come to 12.85 pounds as well. So the poverty rates fell in the years after the 2010 as a part of the pandemic conditions across the world, and also UK reflected very badly and recovered from the financial crisis but are also now showing some clear signs of fluctuating up. In 2016 to 17, relative low income rates, including the house cost, were also fallen down from 22 to 18%, and 4 billion British workers are now in the poverty line, according to the report by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, that is JRF, and that figure out that it has been risen by over 500,000 compared with 5 years ago from the introduction of the universal credit, replacing 6 benefits with one single monthly payment as well. So rough sleeping and demand at food banks have been risen. This is found to be the turning point for the poverty in the UK than the returning point. Then what we can analyze and we can talk about what are the measures what are the methods needs to measure the poverty. So the cost of basic needs of living. So it mainly estimates the cost of enough food for the adequate nutrition for an individual or as well as a family, and the food energy take. So that is the expenditure or income per capita for needed for the food consumption. And the subjective analysis are asking about the people about the minimum income levels and all. Then what is absolute poverty, which is known as based on the fixed threshold, and the relative poverty, which is based upon the variable threshold. And when the economy of the country is improving, even the relative poverty will also be having a tremendous change in that one. Then hybrid measures, that is comparing both the relative and also the absolute poverty. Then, what are the measuring poverty? That is income measure. Most common method of measuring the poverty, which involves the comparison of an individual, the household income to asset and to overcome the poverty line. And next one is a consumption measure. That is measures poverty based upon the consumption rather than the individual's per capita income. The next one is multi-dimensional poverty index. So the MPI considers the multiple factors, which is the measurement of poverty, including the health, education, and the living standard, and it is more a comparative measure of poverty as it considers of different aspects. Then the third and the last one is the subjective measure. This method involves asking about the individuals, that how much per capita income they are earning and how they are utilizing for their basic needs of the life or the family. And these are my references notes from the Learn Direct and from the study materials measuring the poverty GSDRC and the poverty Britain UK govern.uk Institute of Economic Affairs, and also redefining the poverty. That was the images have been taken from. And thank you for listening me such a wonderful topic. It is really a very high pleasure to discuss with this topic. Thank you.